allow me to immediately introduce you to Steiner's model of group productivity. And that is that we have in any group or team an actual productivity. This is effectively what the team, what the group produces in terms of the optimization of performances, basically how well the team does. Now, that actual productivity, or how is it brought about? Well, actual productivity in this model equals potential productivity. Effectively, the overall best performance that the group could be theoretically capable of. Productivity. Excuse me, I've got a bit of hay fever as I record this. Is a bit disgusting. But that's got to be minus any kind of losses that occur. And we call these losses due to faulty processes. So, in essence, what Steiner is arguing is that any group has a sort of potential best performance, that's their luck, and that what actually comes out, which is the actual productivity, is the best performance minus anything that goes wrong. Now that shouldn't be sort of like super complicated for us. It's a fairly simple notion. But what we want to do is we want to look at the notion of losses and see if we can understand them better. So let's have a think about losses due to faulty processes. I want to introduce you to the types of losses or faulty processes might occur. So I'm going to bring some over here, which I'm going to describe as social loafing, more of which in a second. And I'm going to draw your attention also over, what colour should I choose? Nice blue. I'm going to bring you also over to here, where I'm going to describe to you what's referred to as the Ringelmann effect. So these are the two types of processes that could go wrong. So let's see if we can differentiate these first of all. Well, social loafing is what we call motivational losses. In essence, people not trying. And I think you will agree that is the base principle here. If people don't try, generally speaking, a performance will worsen, right? We'll have a faulty process. Whereas the Ringelmann effect is what we would describe as a coordination loss. Something's gone wrong in the system. And what I mean by that is that maybe it's a tactical weakness. Maybe there's a lack of understanding between one player in a basketball team and a person they're meant to be working alongside. Now, social loafing, if we go back a little bit here, this could be described as being lazy. A really nice way to summarize social loafing is it's what's described as opting out. And you will have experienced this, either yourself doing this or you've experienced performers around you doing this. It's what we call, in air quotes, hiding. Often hiding in a big moment as well against a tough opposition. It tends to come about as a result of weak leadership. So yes, the performer is responsible for their own motivation, but generally speaking, motivation is more likely to diminish when there's weak leadership, and there's also what we describe as no accountability. So if effectively an individual can get away with that social loafing, it is more likely because there's a lack of accountability. Now let's have a look at our Ringelmann effect as sort of a distinction here. We tend to call these technical losses, someone either not being able to perform a technique or not being able to sort of work in conjunction with another performer in the team, for example. But we'd also say that these are common or more common in larger teams. So if we were to take rugby union, for example, and we were to take, that's an A in there, and we were to take basketball, we'd expect more Ringelmann effect, more coordination loss in the rugby union because there's 15 players compared to 5, so larger teams. And we tend to find they're common with complex skills, remembering that complex skills are those with a high perceptual load and lots of decision making. So technical effect or coordination losses tend to come in those sorts of environments. Now what we want to address from here forward is how we address or how we improve or how we prevent these. So we're going to say that we prevent, let me put SL, social loafing, by what are the factors that would lead this? Well, first of all, the leader should set high standards, okay, so that it's absolutely clear when someone is social loafing. Secondly, they must introduce accountability. Now, there's all kinds of ways to do this. You could go to really big brother steps of videoing every session and reviewing every practice session, for example. But you might have things like, what about things like the GPS trackers? Okay, you might use sort of trackers, movement trackers, so that enables you to actually look at how many sprints someone's doing, for example. One of the most fundamental things, and costs absolutely no money whatsoever, unlike the trackers, is that the coach, the leader, should set individual goals. This is critical. If we only have team goals, the tendency is to diminish and to hide in that situation. But if you've got an individual goal that you're looking to achieve, that's there. We could also use notational analysis. Notational analysis is effectively a tally of when things happen. Okay, so if you could do a tally of someone's sprints, for example, and you could monitor that. You must also punish, and think about that as a form of reinforcement, punish low motivation. So if somebody doesn't try, if people get away with that, of course it's much more likely, it's being reinforced effectively to happen again. And we can also use drive reduction theory. And what we mean by drive reduction theory, although we don't look at it in a lot of detail in this course, it basically stresses the importance of continually resetting goals so that the goal is also always relevant and contemporary on an individual and team basis. And that's what would prevent social loafing here. So using ongoing goals that are being replaced by more and more relevant goals as progress is made. Now with our Ringelmann effect, so if I put prevent RE, Ringelmann effect by, this is the methodology we would use. So we would want there to be clear team and individual goals. So obviously, that's meant to be individual and individual goals. So obviously goal setting is a really important aspect of this. So goals must be both team and individual. Secondly, we want to achieve near transfer, and we achieve near transfer by practicing like the competition. One methodology is to build teams within teams. A rugby team, for example, working specifically with the forwards on scrummaging, or a hockey team working with the 5 players and the goalkeeper who are going to defend short corners. Teams within teams. We want, because these are coordination losses, of course, we want the overlearning, believe it or not, that's what that says, of set plays. So make sure that set plays are overlearned, they're honed, they're grooved, so that they're likely to happen. Also, the coach or the leader should select cohesive teams. Now, this is a really important point. What we mean by cohesive teams is you may not pick the best 11 players, even if they've got a higher potential productivity, because we go back to the base equation. We're interested in the actual productivity, not this is theoretical, right? And if there's lots of these, even with the star players, then of course we should choose a more cohesive team, even if their potential is lower, we might get better performance. We want to do lots of video playback. This actually allows for the accuracy of identification of losses, and of course we want to reinforce success, and that of course could be in the form of both positive or negative reinforcement. So that is the Steiner model. That's how we go about addressing those losses, but make sure you can differentiate between social loafing, which is motivational, and Ringelmann effect, which is coordination of technical losses. Thank you.